short story for World Book Day. The Lift by Anthony Horowitz. Let's go over this again, the Detective Chief Inspector said. Charles Falcon was a small, unhappy-looking man with greying hair and tired blue eyes. He was wearing a dark suit with a striped tie hanging halfway down his chest. His clothes were, like him, crumpled. He had been a policeman for 30 years, and as far as he was concerned, that was 20 years too long. He had lost count of the number of murders he had investigated, the stabbings and shootings, the batterings and stranglings, and that was in addition to the armed robberies, burglaries, kidnappings and assaults. He was glad it was almost over. 2 more months. Then retirement back to Norfolk, a little house in Hunstanton, a dog, long walks along the beach, and no more death. 2 more months, and then this had to come along. He was sitting at his desk in New Scotland Yard. There was a second man opposite him, 30 years his junior, neat and enthusiastic. His name was Jack Beagle, and he was a detective superintendent. He had his notebook open in front of him. "Where do you want to start?" Beagle asked. "From the top," Falcon said. "Let's start with the family." Beagle flipped through the pages in his book. "All right," he said. "Arthur and Mary Smith live in Steyning. It's a small village near the South Downs. They own the fruit shop there. They have one son, Eric, aged 11. As a Christmas present, they decided to bring him to London. Christmas shopping, lunch at a pizza restaurant, then the afternoon performance of The Phantom of the Opera. They had seats in the circle. A23 to—" "All right, get on with it," Falcon interrupted. That was the trouble with Beagle. Too many details. Give him half a chance, and he'd be describing what sort of ice creams they'd had in the interval. Beagle flicked a page. After the show, they went to Covent Garden. There's a place in the new piazza that sells gadgets. Eric wanted a South Park clock. Insisted on it. So although they were tired, they went. They got to the station at 5:15. That was when he vanished. "Eric Smith," Falcon muttered. He closed his eyes and sighed. Covent Garden is one of London's oldest and deepest tube stations. There are only 2 platforms. The Piccadilly line runs east and west, and there are also no escalators. 4 lifts connect the top and the bottom. There's a steep, twisting staircase, but not many people use it, as it has 199 steps. "It was very busy," Beagle went on. "After all, it was only 3 weeks to Christmas, and the station was full of people shopping and all the rest of it. There was quite a crowd waiting for the lift, and that was when it happened. This boy, Eric, I'm afraid he doesn't sound a very nice piece of work, a bit spoiled and disobedient." "You're saying his parents did him in?" Falcon cut in, gloomily. He'd investigated just such a case about 10 years before. "Oh no, sir. He's their only son, and they dote on him. That's why I mentioned the seats. They were the most expensive in the theatre." "Go on." "They were waiting for the lifts, and there were people all around them. Hundreds of people. The Smiths were at the back of the line. And then what happened was, 2 lifts arrived at exactly the same time, one next to the other. The queue moved forward, and Arthur, Mary, and young Eric just managed to squeeze into the lift on the left. But then, for some reason, Eric decided to get into the lift on the right. He dodged out of one and into the other. His parents called out to him, but it was already too late. The lift doors closed, both at the same time, and that was that." "And he was in one lift, and they were in the other?" "Yes, sir. They weren't very happy about it. They told Eric to stay close to them, but, like I say, he doesn't sound like the sort of boy who does what he's told. Even so, they weren't particularly worried. After all, it only takes about a minute to get to the top, and both lifts would arrive at exactly the same time." "Which they did?" "Yes, sir. They arrived at the top, and the doors opened at exactly the same second. The crowd poured out, and there's the rub. There was no sign of Eric. The boy had disappeared."